back then when we were kids in the 80s, like we were like always doing shit in the woods. Do kids go like in the woods anymore?
No.
It's
the woods is like empty. There's nobody in there.
There's no woods.
If somebody's in there, run.
Yeah.
If you go.
No, they're looking at TikTok. They're not looking at the other kid.
They're looking at TikTok, and I'm running by in the woods like Bigfoot.
Yeah, you're a fucking big. Here comes fucking Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And then you see me, I'm like, and then it's like, and we're like the whole apes in the woods, and these kids are fucking, looking at it like, oh, the cat like flew off of a fan. Isn't that funny? Next video.
Time to talk about games played by Ryan and Mike. A modern, a retro video game show. Yes, we talk about games and sometimes other stuff like Star Trek. It's a blast, our gaming podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Talk About Games. This, if you're unaware, is a show where Ryan and I each bring a game topic each week to the show. Usually I'm bringing a game that I've been playing on stream, and Ryan just what he's playing, I guess, in your spare time or whatnot. I wanted to talk about a little bit about the Google Stadia, because we hadn't had a chance to ever really talk about that. And so I never played the Google Stadia. Like at all. I had no interest in it because whenever I would ever hear anybody talk about it, people just make fun of it. Whenever I mention it on a stream, people just like, you get the little emojis where people are just like laughing. It's become, I guess, just like a joke. And I looked into it a little bit, and from what I know about it, it was like a streaming service, and you could stream games over it. I never bothered to try it, and I just thought, how would anybody even have a fast enough internet connection to be able to even play these games? So I looked at it, and it said, it would do like 1080p and then 4K, and they were trying to do 8K with it and all this. And I was like, they're going to stream 4K games over the internet. It's an interesting idea, but I just felt like we're not really there yet, because I don't know about you, but people that I know, Ryan, I know he has fast goddamn internet. I have super fast internet, but most people that I know do not have the best internet.
Right.
I have friends and family, and their internet is not gonna. It's not gonna do it. They're never gonna stream 4K. At least not right now. Now we're into 2021. I think Google Stadia came out a couple years ago. So I looked into it, and apparently you don't have to have that. Like your bandwidth could have been like I saw like 35 or something, but I know people that their internet is like 8 and 10.
So when a new thing comes out,
yeah,
I always go to you and I'm like, yo, Mike, there's a new thing coming out.
Sure.
And much like the hundreds of things I've shown you over the years, I went in on Google Stadia. I was like, first thing I did, I'm like, oh, cool, Google Stadia. They want to. They need developers. So I contacted them. I'm like, we're developers. We make things. And they're like, we don't want those kind of developers.
They're like, we want Cyberpunk.
Yeah, we want real stuff. Now they're like, please, sir.
Yeah.
Develop on my console. It's funny how things change. So that was the first thing I did. But I pre-ordered a bunch of different like founders packs and all this stuff, and I got it. And the game that I played on Stadia was Red Dead Redemption 2.
Okay.
And you know what's funny? Mm-hmm. Worked great.
Okay.
No complaints. I have that 8K TV. I was playing it at 4K on it. It was awesome.
Now, did you play it when it like launched?
Yeah.
Or are you talking
right
about
when it
like
launched.
now?
Right
yeah,
when
okay.
it launched.
Okay.
I haven't played it in like a year or
okay.
something like that. But yeah, right when it launched, I played it. I thought the controller was nice. I thought there was a lot good with it.
Okay.
The technology works here.
I mean, it's definitely an interesting idea. I just feel like clearly, I guess since the thing didn't do well, like we're not just quite there yet.
Well, I mean, I have like 50 million problems. And it first starts with, you and I, like, look at the games that are sitting here, like
the physical games.
Like, you hold it in your hand. Like, if I was going to own, I want to own something. Like, when I buy something on Steam, I feel like Steam has been around long enough that they're gonna keep it going.
Yeah.
You know,
I like that too. When you buy a game on Steam and you have it in your library, and I've had some of those games in my library since forever. So it makes you feel you sort of have that collector mentality of the same thing. You have the NES games on your wall, or you have the Atari games on your wall. When I log into my Steam, I'm like, oh yeah, here's all my games I got.
But my problem with like digital game distribution is I've had my Xbox account, my PlayStation account, even my Nintendo account and my Steam account for like 10 years, right? And now Google comes in, and Google doesn't have the best track record when it comes to new like things. They tend to switch around
like
a lot.
Google Plus and whatever.
And shut things down.
Sure.
There are entire websites devoted
Which
to...
is amazing to me because Google is one of the biggest companies in the world, and it's amazing to me that they can fail like that.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to, say about this is, for me, from what I'm saying, gotta remember, guys, I'm like Mr. like Atari dude, so I'm coming at this from that perspective. I look at this and I'm like, I look at it, it's Google Stadia. First of all, the name to me, it's like Google Stadia, like what, like a stadium. It makes me think of like a stadium, and maybe that's the kind of like idea they're going for. And I just start thinking about concrete, and I'm like, this is like the most. I'm just thinking of like pavement and concrete, and I'm like, this is the most like dead, cold name that you possibly have for a system. Like when we were kids, it was just more like fun. Sega Genesis. That's awesome. Stadia. It's not, Stadia.
Yeah.
It's like the most boring thing. So then I have to start thinking about, they have all the money in the world, and they're talking about, I watched some videos on it, and they're talking about teraflops and internet connection and 4K and 8K. And I thought to myself, I was like, you know what Nintendo thinks about? People.
Mario.
They created Mario and Zelda and Metroid. With Metroid, you had, you go to the planet Brinstar, and Mario has the Mushroom Kingdom, and they create these worlds and these mythos. So when I think of Nintendo, I think of all these different things that they created. Nintendo, the company. When I think of Google, I'm like, the search engine. It's just like this dead, cold thing. And I feel like they just didn't, there's no human element there.
It's not art.
So what they did there is they go, we're going to buy Doom Eternal and have it on Stadia. And we're going to buy the game I'm going to get to, Orcs Must Die 3. And all these games. And yeah, that's fine. You can buy games and have them on your platforms. And Nintendo does that too. But Google, as far as I know, they weren't developing games themselves for this Stadia. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe they did develop some games themselves for it, but if they did, I never heard of them. Well, and that's the point.
It's the same problem I have with all these new consoles when they first come out. Google Stadia is like the Wii U of streaming services, because like the Wii U came out. It's like, where are the games? You're giving me the same thing out on the Wii. Why am I buying this? Why do I care?
Oh, the same game over and over?
Same game over and over. It's like... game streaming works, and Google Stadia works, but it doesn't fucking matter because the technology is not the problem. The game that I'm going to talk about today, Satisfactory, guess what? I was getting footage in the office for this episode, and I was playing it, and I went home, and I logged into Steam at home, and it's like, Satisfactory is playable, but it's not installed on my system.
Okay.
But it's installed in the system back at the office. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to play it. And I click play. And you know what? Worked flawlessly.
And that was on Steam?
Steam Remote Play.
Okay.
Even more. We were testing Iron Meat, the Contra shooter that we're working on right now. And we have Remote Play together as a feature in the game. And I had Tara over there, and I'm like, yo, Tara, let's try Remote Play together. It was a feature we wanted to throw in. I'm going to start a single player game. I'm going to invite you to it. And you don't even have the game installed. You don't even own the game. And we're going to play it together like it's couch co-op. And we're playing a 2-player game of Iron Meat, and it's fucking awesome.
And you're able to do it.
And you're able to do it just like you were sitting right next to me.
Right.
It's great. My kids, my son is a big fan of the game that we played in the cornfield way back on the first Mike and Ryan show, Farming Simulator.
Right.
And he has like the latest Farming Simulator on PS4. He loves it. It's good. But then PlayStation is PlayStation Now, which is their like game streaming service. And the only way that we could get the old Farming Simulator was to play it on PlayStation Now. And you know what? When he boots it up, he doesn't even know that the game is not on his system, that it's running somewhere.
I mean, one of the problems I have is like, okay, there's PlayStation Now, and I think I have that. There's just so many services these days to keep track of. Between games, you got the Nintendo Switch service, you got the PlayStation services, Xbox has got their Xbox Live or whatever the hell they have now, and then you get over to the movies, and you got your Disney Plus and your Paramount Plus, and it's like there's so many fucking services. I can't even. There's a service for every single thing has a different fucking service. So I'm like, I have to, if anything I want to watch, every show I want to watch has their own fucking service, and it's so over the top that I'm just like, I just get like sort of fed up with it. So here comes Stadia, and it's just like another thing to like download or whatever. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, I'm just like, it's too much for me. So I'm like, I'm just going to go on Steam and I'm going to find a game and just play it. And I don't want to hear about the next service. There's Paramount Plus, and every day there's a new goddamn fucking service.
And then they rename them. Like back when we were doing CBS All Access, and now it's like Paramount Plus. And if you're not like following everything and you don't know, like you want to watch something like back in the day of 5 years ago, I wanted to watch a Marvel show. I want to watch Daredevil or something. What do? Oh, it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Here you go. Now it's like, oh, well, Daredevil's on Netflix, but you want to watch Loki. Now that's on Disney Plus.
Dude, I gotta go back in time here. I really hate all this shit because I'm from the analog television era where you could take your analog remote, not your digital remote, and on an analog TV back in the 80s and 90s, and then let's go to the 90s, you can flip through all the channels. Back then there might have been like 100 channels. I remember flipping through 100 channels, and I used to see how fast I could do it, and all I needed to see was a split second of whatever the television show to know that I was going to watch it or not watch it, because I knew what shows I wanted to watch. I could tell in a millisecond I'm going to watch that or I'm going to not. I'm going to see, somebody's fishing, not watching it. Click. Like, I just go through it really quick, and I'm like, oh, there's a show I might watch. And it was like lightning fast. That has been gone for a long time. The digital shit is supposed to be better. It's like, oh, it's digital, it's better. It's not fucking better. It's slower. You go to the fucking TV guide channel, and it's like this slow ass thing scrolling. Half the screen is a fucking advertisement for whatever, and then you got this little fucking thing, and it's scrolling. I think whatever. NCIS is coming on or whatever the fuck. It's like, it sucks.
You know what I don't get? Well, I have like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, all the shit. I was talking to my sister this morning at breakfast, and I was like, remember the Disney afternoon? Remember you had DuckTales, you had Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, you got your Tailspin, you got your Gummy Bears, you got all that shit, right? I'm like, how come there was like one fucking channel I got with my rabbit ears, and there was something to watch? But right now I have all this shit.
And there's nothing to watch.
Nothing to watch.
Nothing to watch. Yeah.
What's the point?
It's we've moved so far away from things having soul, and that's where I go back to with this. This is just my take on the Google Stadia. There's a million other YouTubers have other things. 2 years later. But I have a reason to go into this because of the game. So I just felt like it just felt very soulless, and I was like, I don't care. It just has nothing that offer. If I want. From what I know, they were talking about having Doom Eternal on the Stadia when it came out, I guess. And I'm like, yeah, but it's on Steam.
Right.
I'm gonna play it on Steam. Give me a reason to have Google Stadia. Yeah. Why? Anyway, so that brings me into my game. So here's why I brought this up. So I really like tower defense games. It's one of my favorite game genres because you're always constantly clicking on something and doing something. It's a strategy type of thing, and I like to always be working on something in my games. And tower defense games are very much like that, and they fill that gap for me. So I found this game, Orcs Must Die, and I was like, I don't think I would like this game because it's in third person. Most tower defense games are top down. Or I read a Nintendo Power once, and this little kid wrote in a letter, and he said, I played The Legend of Zelda, and I played it, and I thought it was really neat how it was in helicopter view. So I always that's what I say now. I say helicopter view. So most tower defense games are in helicopter view, and in a tower defense game, normally you got the little line of guys. They come out, and you'll put down a arrow guy, and the arrow shoots the bad guy. And the idea of a tower defense game is that they go from one side to the other, and you can't let the enemies get to the other side. Is the basic concept, and you put down more weapons and traps and things like that. It works usually the best overhead in helicopter view because you can see the whole layout of the level. So when I saw this game, it's a third-person game, and I was like, that's not going to work very well because how are you going to know what's going on one edge of the map compared to the other? You can't see the whole level, so it's not going to really work. I just thought it would suck, but I was like, you know what? I'll try it though. So I tried it, and I was surprised to find that it actually worked really well, and they did a very good job with it. Now, the first Orcs Must Die game I think came out around like 2011 or something like that. They did a sequel, which I think was like 2013, 2014. My dates may be a little off. In 2020, they released Orcs Must Die 3 on the Stadia, and I was like, I wanted to play the most recent one. I'll play Orcs Must Die 3, and then I looked, I was like, oh shit, it's on the Stadia. I guess I'm not doing that. So that's when I went back, and I was like, I'll just play the original game. So I started playing the original Orcs Must Die, and it's basically that's all it is. You take different traps, like you have your arrows and all that, and you place them down, and you try to, get the guy not to get to the other side, and it's fun. I don't know.
I think I remember the first time you played a tower defense game.
Okay.
I got the iPhone, I think it was the iPhone 4 or 3GS or one of the ones. And I'm like, yo, it's got games on it. And I was playing this game called Field Runners. And I showed you Field Runners.
The first one I ever played, I believe, was Kingdom Rush.
Okay. Is that good?
Yes, it was pretty good. I mean, I remember having some issues with it. When you get like late in the game with that's like a medieval kind of,
Oh, that's cool.
Thing. You're like elves and shit like that and spiders and whatever. And when you get later in the game, I found that it just got to be a little too overwhelming, and then they wanted you... I think it had like some microtransaction shit, and it got to the point where I felt like the only way I could progress would be to do microtransactions,
right,
or spend a bazillion hours like learning everything perfectly, and I started to give up on it. But then you're right. I think then you showed me the Field Runners game, and that one was cool too. That one's more of a military theme, and that one's really good.
And what's nice about that game is that it doesn't have... It's a game. It's crazy. It's a mobile game that doesn't have any like pay to win crap.
Yeah.
Which is really great.
And that's why, I always say there is mobile games that are really good because people just endlessly shit on mobile games. Oh, it looks like a mobile game. It looks like an iPad game, whatever. And it's like, you know what? There's a lot of good games. And the reason I think that mobile gaming has, had such a problem is because of the microtransactions. It just gave mobile gaming a bad rap, so everybody just shits on it. But there is good stuff, and the good games usually come to ones that you can just flat out buy. Here, I'm gonna play $4. I own the game, and then there's none of the microtransaction stuff, and those tend to be the best games. There's a game I actually like on mobile a lot. It's called Water, or Where's My Water. It's a Disney game.
Oh, you got to draw the dirt out of the way. Yeah,
that's a fun game. There is fun mobile games. My favorite, of course, being Raid Shadow Legends. You can send my check immediately. Anyway, getting back to this. So there's all kinds of tower defense games, but I feel like I could probably name on my two hands all the tower defense games that are worth playing. There's, Dungeon Warfare. It's a really good one. There's Defense Grid, which is a really good one. But
I'm writing these down, by the way, because I gotta
play Defense Grid. That one's great, and Dungeon Warfare. Those are probably the top ones that I played. But there's only a small batch of tower defense games out there to even play that are worth playing. There's probably a lot of like junky ones, but I feel like it's a shame because it's such a good. Those games are so fun, and it's such a good just sort of concept, and I have so much fun playing them. It's sad to me that there's so few of them in comparison to fighting games or platformers or whatnot. How many platformers can you name, Ryan?
Oh yeah, for days. But you know what's interesting about tower defense is, I'm sure you could probably go back to like the NES or PC or whatever and find tower defense games from the past.
Yeah.
But tower defense is a relatively new genre.
Right.
Like compared
So
to
I can't really compare it to the
shooters or platformers
That's
and stuff.
true.
And it's very rare that we get a new genre. Like I remember when real-time strategy games came out and I was like, wow, this is a video game, but it's not a platformer, it's not a shooter.
It's a different genre, yeah.
It's different.
And that's what I really like look for and why I love Steam so much. And the big developers, Xbox and whatever, and Nintendo, I feel like they're more afraid to delve into new ideas because it's so expensive to produce games. So you rely on like the smaller studios to come up with the new ideas a lot of times. But I want to talk a little bit more specifically though about Orcs Must Die. So I played the first Orcs Must Die game, and it was pretty good. It has most of the basics of what you'd want there. The graphics, they're from 2011, so they're, a little, you can tell they're a little dated now. But I had to stop playing it because I played it for, I don't know, several hours, and there are characters in the game that just continually talk. And especially because I'm trying to stream and I'm talking, and then I have the voices coming out and they're just talking and driving me crazy because I'm trying to like talk. So that was driving me crazy. But even if I was playing the game on my own, I feel like the voices would just really get annoying. There was one guy, every time you'd do anything good, he'd go, winning, because it was the Charlie Sheen era.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, number one, this is why you don't ever put memes into your game unless the idea of your game is to make fun of memes or something, because they're going to get dated real fucking quick.
Right.
And like nobody thinks that like it first of all, it wasn't fucking funny back then. And second of all, like now you're dating your game, and it's really a shame because you have this really cool game and now you go back and you're like, oh. So I just got like, I was like, this stinks. But I was like, you know what? I'll try the second one because I do like the gameplay. The second one fixes a lot of the issues. Oh, also, you might be like, why not just turn off the voice? There was no option to turn the voice off in the game. So the second game, the graphics are better. It's just better. They fixed like all the little issues. So if you're going to play one, I would say play that. One of the things that's really fun about the game is that it has an endless mode, so you can start one of the maps and you can turn on endless mode and literally just go forever and see how far you can make it. And as you're going, your earnings in this game, the currency is skulls.
Oh, cool.
You grab skulls and then you can use that to buy better traps. So eventually, when you die, you go to the next. You go into the shop or whatever it is, the spell book, I think it's called in this, and you can buy your different, traps and whatnot. And then you start finding what things suck and what things are cool. Like I really like to use archers a lot. You place the archers all over and they're like shooting everything. It's fun. And then there's other stuff that sucks. Like I found some weapons that, they shoot like gas or something. They like don't really do anything.
Is there a weapon that slows them down in it? Because that's always a big thing in tower defense.
There is the tar, and I use that all the time. But I'm glad you brought that up. The tar is really, really good, and you can keep upgrading the tar like over and over to make it stronger. But there are certain enemies that run right through it. Like there'll be like the werewolf or whatever, or there's like dogs and shit, and they'll just go like right through it. So you have to put down other things to deter them. So it can get, and that's why the game is fun. So you got to like figure those things out and try to defend your base or whatever. In this, it's a door, and because usually it's like they try to get to your castle or your building.
Right.
In this one, it's a door that they're trying to get through. It's something that I recommend. I have never played the third one, but it literally on the time that we are shooting this video, the third game actually came out today on Steam and all the platforms and PlayStation and everything. I've never played it. We probably should have waited a little bit so I could have talked about that one, but I could have played it had I tried Google Stadia, but I just was like, I'm just not gonna bother with it.
And I think that's the tough thing when you're making a new console. When you have a new console, you can't just have an okay game be the game that is special to your console,
right?
Like, and not that Orcs Must Die is okay, but you need to have like a game that's like amazing.
Oh, okay. So let me throw this out. So I don't think tower defense games are for everybody, and I absolutely would not compare like any tower defense game I can think of to like a Cyberpunk or like a Doom Eternal or something. Like you got to have a big game if you're gonna like launch it, or Mario or something.
Yeah.
Like you can't. It's not ever gonna be that big. So, but it's just like it's a fun little game. I feel like I never heard anybody talk about it. And it was most interesting to me that you can do a tower defense game in third person and still have it be good, because I thought that wouldn't even be possible. And that's what was interesting to me about this.
So the game that I'm going to talk about is one that's from a company that I think you've spent some time playing, a game that they published at least. And that's Coffee Stain.
Valheim.
They published Valheim, which I know you had a really good time with.
Yes and no.
Oh, so your thoughts on Valheim have changed since we talked? Curious.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Valheim. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
But unless they added a way more content, I would never play it again.
You're done. You've done everything.
I've done everything there is to do, and I was really, really disappointed by the ending of Valheim. I don't know if you, because I know you played a lot of it, but I don't know if you literally beat it. The ending of the game, is so disappointing that I was like, wow, I dumped all these hours into this game, and this is the end. Now, I'm the guy who doesn't give a shit. I don't care about the cutscenes. I don't care about the story. But it was so disappointing. And not even about the cutscene or the ending or anything like that, but the final boss, it's a baby skeleton thing. And you just go like this. And then it just falls over and dies. I compared it to if you play Gradius, one of those, you play one of those, and those games are really hard. You're shooting shit, and you're going through the whole game, and you get to the end of Gradius, and it's like an eyeball guy, and you shoot it once, and it dies.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why they designed those games like that, but it's the same thing as that. It's this really disappointing ending. And then there's the item management and whatever. This video is going to turn into all my complaints on Valheim now. But the other big problem was I got really tired of the fucking item management and putting stuff into boxes and stuff like that. That could have been done so much better. So me and a friend of ours, we ended up playing Valheim Plus off stream, and the stuff that they put into Valheim Plus fixed a lot of the issues that I had going through the game. But I'm halfway through playing my second quest of Valheim with a friend, and I was like, I don't want to play this game again through. It's not worth playing again. And I thought the first time I played through Valheim, I was like, I could play this game forever. And then on my second playthrough, I was like, I am never playing this game again.
Right, because really when it comes down to it, what is it? You kill the stag, then you go to the swamp, then you do what's over there, you go to the other place, then you go to the plains, and
it's over.
Done.
Yeah, and then the ending's not very good.
Yeah.
And so the only way I would play that game again is if they added a fucking shit ton of content and fixed the ending and added a whole bunch of new biomes. They add 5 new biomes, and then they fix all the problems that they had with it, all the little things. Then I might play it again.
So I think in this genre of games, which is the collecting and building, and I don't know if there's a word for it, but this type of exploration.
I don't know what to call it either.
Exploration, looting, building game.
Coffee stain gaming, whatever we're going to call it.
So the game I'm talking about today is Satisfactory.
Satisfactory.
And Satisfactory is a game where you are a guy who gets dropped in a pod on a planet, and you work for a company called the Fix-It Company.
Mm-hmm.
And this corporation is your typical shadowy, it's a company that manufactures things, right? So they have you land on this alien world, and you land in a drop pod, and they just start telling you, you got to build this, you got to build that, you got to collect materials, you got to do all that. And you start just being you. You're just a person where you have a little pick, and you're...
It seems like almost the exact type thing that Valheim was. Valheim, you start with a little thing, and you got to build up, and you got to build things, and then go out adventuring. It's that's the type of thing, right?
But one of the things I like about this is it addresses a lot of the criticism that I had for other games in the genre, like Ark. In Ark, you need to have 20 people online at all the time to tame the dinosaurs and build the base.
And it's always hard to get other people.
It's always hard to get other people to play. In this, you build automated factories in this explorable world where there's enemies and different things. And you start with simple hand tools, like a hand mining tool, but eventually you're building things that mine for you and things that smelt for you and things that manufacture things.
So is it like you feel like this is more like you can play it a lot by yourself? You might want to play with other people, but this is a game that's you could do by yourself, whereas Ark kind of isn't.
Yeah, like with Ark, definitely when you start getting it, like you can play Ark by yourself for days, but then you get to the point where you're like, I want to go in this dungeon.
And now you need people.
I want to tame something. Now you need people. With this game, it's just you build this gigantic automated factory that does everything. And while you're surviving and fighting the enemies and collecting items in the environment and doing research and doing all of these things. But building the factory it's kind of something fun that you could do yourself. It's like, imagine if you got dropped into like Sim City and you got to make the city work, but it's third person, just like
that would be cool. Actually.
Orcs Must Die.
Right. Yeah.
So you're building your gigantic factories, and if you go online, like what I'm talking about is not the creative mode. There is a creative mode. What I'm talking about
is the campaign.
Is the campaign or survival. Just like Minecraft. Minecraft has survival and then it has creative. But if you go online and look at what people are doing in creative mode, they're building like these insane factories.
I'm sorry, but I've never played Minecraft. I've never even heard of it.
Oh,
I have a friend though who's an expert on it.
Oh yeah,
yeah, but
yeah.
I
hear he's in law enforcement.
Yeah, he is.
Wow,
he is.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's a talented guy.
Yeah, but what's interesting about this game is, like you said, you don't like sitting through cutscenes or anything like that. But even though you're just a solo person on a planet, you get an idea that this Fix-It Corporation may not be the most moral.
I'll sit through a cutscene when the game has earned it, which is something that I've heard you say before.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you start a game, the most famous example is freaking Skyrim.
That's the famous example, but that you're like on a cart and it's like talking to you. The one I remember, I think the first time it really pissed me off, I played Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
And that was the first Final Fantasy game I had played since the Super Nintendo days.
Right.
And I just remember this cutscene going on forever and ever, and I just eventually just shut it off. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, unlike...
And it might be a good game. Like, after that, I just couldn't bother to sit through a 30-minute, like, thing,
And what's bad about that is back in Final Fantasy VII, or even Final Fantasy VI, Square knew what pacing was.
Oh, well, fuck. I forgot about Final Fantasy VII. I did play some of that, so sorry. I didn't just skip from Super Nintendo to 10.
Yeah.
I forgot about Final Fantasy.
Yeah, but like they knew what pacing was. When you're going through that factory, when you're going through the Magitech, the power plant,
yeah.
Like it is like, here's the girl. Oh, what's going on with the girl? Here's the thing. Here's the train. Oh, fuck, you're in a battle. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's a little more like, what is it? And the music is like driving. It's not like, we're in the town.
I still think Final Fantasy 3/6, the Kefka one, is like the best soundtrack I've ever heard.
Even then, to this day. That game has freaking Terra, Biggs, and Wedge walking at the beginning.
Yeah.
And they're what's funny? They would never in a million years get away with naming the two random soldiers Biggs and Wedge in a show now. There'd be all these lawsuits and bullshit. It's like just chill out.
Yeah.
Okay?
Everybody needs to chill the fuck out.
Yeah. But back to Satisfactory. The game's beautiful. You're in this beautiful, lush world that you turn into a gigantic metal factory.
So just an alien planet somewhere. You know what's funny? We had been talking about like Mech Warrior, and I was thinking about like there's all these mechs, and you have these guys like fixing these giant mechs and everything. But then I was watching you play this, and the thing I was thinking of, this is sort of the other end of that. It's like, okay, they have to build this giant mech, but where does the metal come from? How did they? I know there's the guys that put the arm back on and everything in your ship, but where are they getting all this stuff? This is kind of like, maybe the plot of the game is this is all the machine parts that go to build the mechs in Mech Warrior.
Yeah, I was so happy when I first got a vehicle because it was, you look at like how many resources you need to do anything in this game, and you're like, fuck, I need 1,200 things. I'm not going to sit here and go tink, 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 tink 1,200 times. Right? Like you have
to do that in the beginning.
Yeah. It forces you to build the factories. But once you get it going, there's not a lot of this.
Okay.
Because you're like, oh, where am I going to put my thing? Oh, the ground's not level. I got to build my conveyor belts. I got to get power to it. And like, I would say I've played the game about 30 hours.
Okay.
And so far, you start as I'm a guy in a survival game. And that gameplay, you got a couple hours of that. Figuring out what's going on. And like, I got my taser. You know, it's like, why didn't the company...
But once you start having a base and things start getting produced, then does it kind of transform into something else?
Then it transforms into like a resource management thing.
Okay.
But the resources are very scarce. So you're like, oh, maybe I am going to go tink a little bit to like supplement my factory.
Again, this reminds me of Valheim because you have to make the smelters and go get the ore and the copper and then bring it back. And then you're spending a lot of time at your base just like doing all that. And you got to get like the honey or whatever, all that shit that you had to do, you know?
But once you start getting power, a lot of power plants. Your first power plant uses biomatter. And when you first start doing it, you're collecting leaves off the ground to power it. And the leaves burn very fast.
Yeah.
But you're like, okay. Well, I'm spending a lot of time collecting leaves. And just when you're getting sick of collecting leaves, you get a chainsaw.
Okay.
And now you're collecting wood.
Okay.
And the wood gives you a little bit more time to go out and do things. And then you learn, oh, well, I can turn the leaves and wood into biomatter, which burns slower. Mm-hmm. So now I have more time to go out. And you're like, boy, I'm really...
And when you're going out, you're like exploring this planet for different types of minerals.
You're finding new mineral deposits. You're finding there are minerals that you can't have the factory mine that you just...
So I have a question for you. So if you're going out and you find a new mineral or something that you haven't found. I remember I saw you playing and we found this like this tar kind of stuff or whatever. How do you get a new material? How do you know what to do with it next?
Okay, so...
Are you looking that up on the internet?
No. I have never looked up anything on the internet.
Well, that's good.
Because the menus are all... Because the company is like... We need you to get the shit, guy. Like, when you walk near something, like, the company will...
They say to you.
They're like, yo, you could do this. Because the whole thing is you build a space elevator, and then you got to send shit to them.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we're going to increase the size of your pocket dimension so you could carry more around. We're going to give you more. We're going to give you a little bit more because they don't believe that you... They just send people out there, right?
Well, they don't believe you're doing your job?
No, they don't believe... They only give you enough to know what you're doing right now.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And enough resources. Like, we could be building neutron bombs for all I know. I don't fucking...
You don't know what you're fucking building?
I send the shit on the elevator to the...
What if you're building the Death Star?
I could be building the... I'm just sending my space shit to the space guys, and then they tell me more. They're like, go get Black Rock.
See, I would have to, I mean, I guess I wouldn't care because I probably just have enough fun like building the shit and everything. But at some point after 30 hours of playing, I'd start asking myself, I wonder why I'm building this giant factory. You know, you have to start thinking about that.
I walked up to this like smooth, like purple pulsing circle. It was like an orb, right? And I walk near it and like the screen shakes when you're near it.
Okay.
And I'm like, it's like the voice in your head is like, please collect the orb. But like I would have just grabbed it because I just listened to it now. I don't question.
You just don't question it. Just do what it fucking says, right?
But then I'm like trying to get up on the...
You're just a sheep. It's probably it would be awesome that like the game like ends at a certain point. I don't know if there's like an ending to the game, but you do it and they're like, oh, by the way, you've been building torture devices like the entire time, right? Or something horrible, you know?
But then I'm like, I can't get up on the platform. So it keeps going. It's like, Fix-It Corporation highly recommends you collect the orb.
Right.
And I'm like trying to get up there.
So you know to go get the orb.
And I'm trying to get... No, but we're not done yet.
Okay.
Finally, I'm about to get up on the platform and they're like, just so you're aware, you are contractually obligated to get the orb.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, I'll get the orb. Then I get the orb and it says, this game's in early access and the orb doesn't do anything yet.
Oh my God.
And I'm like...
All these fucking early access, man. Like...
And I'm like, God damn it. Right?
Yeah, I was talking about. I played another game that we're going to talk about. That was in early access, and sometimes that can be really frustrating because, again, since we're old, we grew up where you got the cartridge and it had the fucking game on it, and guess what? There was nothing going to add to it. Nothing. It's the fucking game, and that's what you get.
Right.
That's it. Now you play the game. It's like you get 50% and it's like, sorry, this bridge isn't here, or this isn't here, that isn't here. It's like, well, okay, when's that going to be here? And you look, and then I was playing one of these fucking games, and it was like, okay, I wonder when they're going to add the next thing that I need, and it said like December 2022, and I was like, there's no fucking way I'm waiting until 2022, December of 2022.
You're like,
That's basically like, fuck you.
you're like, listen, 100 games come out a day.
Yeah.
Like 100 games come out a day, man. I'm not waiting until 2022. I could be dead in 20.
It's like Christmas in 2022, and I'm like, oh, that game I was playing 3 years ago.
Yeah, sure.
Fuck
Like,
you.
are you
fucking
serious?
early access? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go fucking play Super Nintendo. That's what I'm gonna fucking do. And then that's what I do. Do you like the? So how much do you like this game? You played it 30
love
hours,
it.
so you must love
I'm
it.
gonna play it 30 more, like flat out.
Yeah.
It's cool. I like the ambiguity. I like that there's things going on. The enemies, the AI of the enemies in this game is wasted on this game.
I saw that there's like spiders and shit once you go into the caves, and they look like really cool and creepy. Why would you say they're wasted? You say this is a really good game. Why are they Why is the AI wasted?
Because it's a game about building factories. It's not a game about fighting spiders. But I would fight that spider in any game.
Right, because the AI is really good.
It'd be
on
great.
But isn't that better than you get to the part in the cave and like the spider is
Just
like,
comes
just
at
sucks and it just comes straight at you?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
But the thing is, like, in this game, it's never gonna get to the point where like the people who made this game would be capable of making an amazing dungeon crawling experience where, there's thousands of items and you got to go into the cave. It's like Diablo, but it's 3D.
I have to wonder if this Coffee Stain Studios, if all their games are going to follow the same sort of formula, like, because as different as it is, it's still, it's kind of a little like Valheim.
'Cause, like-
so is their next game after this going to be, if they do another one, going to be another this same type of thing? Or are they going to do something different?
Yeah,
Are they going to challenge themselves a little bit?
Man. Like, I think that they're like, I feel like they have their finger on the pulse of like what people want. Because like Valheim was like a big deal. This game was like a pretty big deal.
Well, I mean, sure, but like I said, I had my list of issues with Valheim, and you're not wrong about that. I feel like they're close, but it's like it's not quite there.
You know what's irritating? This game is more done than Valheim.
Okay,
I'll tell you that. But you know what's irritating about that game? You start doing the fighting with the shield blocking and the sword and the dodging and stuff, and you find a cave and you find the first cave and you're like, this cave's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And then you find the second cave and you're like, the second cave's fucking awesome. And then you find the 50th cave and it looks the same as the first and second cave. And you're like,
yeah,
guys, you did it. You made what I want to play.
but you didn't finish it.
But you didn't finish it.
Yeah, exactly.
What the hell? This game, because we're on update 4 and it's been out for years.
Okay,
It's like there's more to it.
right.
Where
My problem is I played Valheim when it came out. I should have waited until 2024, and then I would have been like, this is the best game ever.
probably
Right.
So that's the pitfall of early access. That's the pitfall of
So for the people that are listening to this, happen to be listening to this podcast, and it's 2026, and Valheim's the best fucking game ever because they've updated it by then. Try and remember that we are people in the past.
Yes, 100%. And I mean, what makes that happen is economics, right? Like they got to pay the bills. A lot of the great games that I play are developed by like small teams, like 10,000 people didn't work on this. This isn't Call of Duty, It's
True. It's like a smaller team, and
it's a smaller team,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't know. I'm trying to like decide like if I would play it myself. I got to tell you, like for me, like looking at it and watching you play it, I feel a little intimidated by it because it seems like, I mean, I don't know because I haven't played it, but You've played Valheim and this.
Yeah.
Would you say that, like the fucking, you're doing like the smelters and like the making the mead and all that in Valheim. Would you say that this game's like way more complicated with all that? Because it looks like it is.
It's way more complicated, but you have way more shit.
Okay.
Like the UI in this game is like way better.
Okay.
This game tells you so much more of like
What you gotta do. And
yo,
everything.
we need 100 of these. We need 200 of these.
Okay.
This is how you make the thing. Like
it's more user friendly.
Like Valheim, like I'm not gonna lie, when I was playing that, I was looking shit up online.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah. No, I did too. Here and there.
Constantly. With this game, I like figured it out.
Okay.
Well,
that's better because I would like my gaming to be in-game, and this goes back in time to instruction manuals, and people always yell at me about this. It's like, use the instruction manuals. Like, you motherfucker, I don't have the Rockin' Cats fucking instruction manual.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like look it up, and then I go on Google and I like look it up, and like it's some like then you're like looking up fucking instruction manuals and shit. The fucking game should explain it to you. And the reason I would have a problem with that is you play Contra or something, you don't need the fucking instruction manual, you just play it. And those are the games I like. I want to just have the whole game in the game.
Yeah.
I don't want to be looking up shit in the Encyclopedia fucking Britannica to figure out how to make this jump.
Right, because it's not a research paper, it's a video game.
Thank you.
I like this one. I'm going to be playing a lot more of it. If you'd play with me, that'd be kind of cool because it's something that might be worth exploring.
I would try it. You know what? I would try it. I know that playing these kind of games and getting another person is the hardest part of the game by far, because I would imagine you set this up on a server, then you got to get the server and you got to put in the fucking code and or whatever, put in your IP address and like all this shit, and that part to me is a fucking drag. And I like call up a friend, I'm like, oh, it's like 9:00 or whatever, and then it's like, then you're sitting at your computer and you're like waiting, and I'm like playing the fucking game. It's like, oh, I got to do another thing, and like waiting. I'm not even talking about just like you, like other friends that I played this with. It's always fucking annoying. And then somebody like logs in, they're like, oh, hold on, I'm on the wrong server, I like to log into this server. I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna go play Chippendale Rescue Ranger. Like at this point,
I got a story for you.
Yeah.
So the problem we're talking about is a problem we didn't used to have.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said Chippendale.
I remember I was walking around the woods. I was 7. Okay. I was walking around the woods. I'm 7.
What are you doing in the woods? Tell us.
I don't know, trying to find like a stick to hit a tree. Wood stuff. So I go, and there's a kid in the woods.
Had a chainsaw.
Had a bloody bag, and a shovel. Like when now? Yeah. 7. No.
Right.
So there's a kid in the woods, right? And
I bet like back then when we were kids in the 80s, like we were like always doing shit in the woods. I was always like in the woods. We were always in the fucking woods and outside shit. Do kids go like in the woods anymore?
No.
It's
the woods is like empty. There's nobody in there.
There's no woods.
If somebody's in there, run. Yeah. If you go.
I'm not going to the woods. I'm fucking 40, right. Dude. I'm at like the fucking,
I still go in the woods. I can't help it. Dude, so I'm 7.
I'm at like a hotel, 4-star hotel. Ryan's in the fucking woods.
I'm in the woods, and there's this kid there, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
I'm 7, and he goes, "I'm 8," and I'm like, "What do you think of Mega Man 2?" And he's like,
I can't.
I say, what do you think of Mega Man 2?
Yeah.
Right? He's like, oh, I love Mega Man 2. And I was friends with that kid for like 20 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Imagine that same interaction today. Assuming you're 7 and you're allowed in the woods, but assuming that same interaction today, I'd be like, hey, dude, you ever hear of Orcs Must Die? And he'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because nobody played. There's so many games.
There was also less games then.
There was like 7 games.
There was more than 7, but there was, yeah.
I could talk to that kid about the warp whistle and Mario 3.
Everybody knew it.
I could talk to him about...
That's a good point.
The fucking 1-up mushroom in the beginning of Mario 1. I could talk about fucking burning bushes in Zelda.
Right.
There, we talked about Zelda in the episode. There you go.
So, and it wasn't me. Yeah, you meet up and you're like, hey, I was playing Satisfactory the one kid says, and the kid says, "That's great. What the fuck is that?" I play Minecraft. And you're like, "Oh, okay. Well, I don't really play Minecraft. I played it when I was like 4, but I don't play it anymore. My sister plays it though. Bye."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, the kid nowadays will be like looking at the ground, like
No, let's be fucking real about this. The kid is at home, or they're in their car, and I don't even have my fucking phone. They're like this, and they're on fucking Instagram or they're looking at fucking TikTok. They're not looking at the other kid.
They're looking at TikTok, and I'm running by in the woods like Bigfoot.
Yeah, you're a fucking big. Here comes fucking Bigfoot. Yeah, and then you see me, and I'm like, and then it's like, and we're like the whole fucking apes in the woods, and these kids are fucking looking at it like, oh, the cat like flew off of a fan. Isn't that funny? Next video, I can't pay attention to anything for more than 4 seconds,
right?
At most.
Yeah. So the point is I have to spend an hour on a podcast, on YouTube, on wherever, to talk to you about this game that was a very popular game that tens of thousands of people played and enjoyed and heard of it. Because there's just so much. It's like...
That's a very good point.
Bring it full circle back to what we were talking about.
Astute observation, Ryan.
Bring it back to streaming services.
Yeah.
And the fact that with streaming services, there's just so many. Nobody's going to look at all of it. What are you going to do?
No, you're right. There are so many games, and I was literally saying last night on stream, I was playing Power Wash Simulator, and I was saying, I played that, by the way, for 9 hours straight, and we're not going to talk about it. But I was saying that there are so many games, I will be dead. One of my goals, because I'm old, and when we were kids, it was like, you got your Atari, and there's like a couple hundred games. Be like, I could play all the Atari games. Then there's NES, and it's like, all right, I think there's about 100 NES games or whatever, or so we thought back then. I could play all the NES games. That was conceivable. That was possible. Or you get to the Virtual Boys, like, oh, well, that only has 8 games, so I can definitely play all those, or 13 or whatever, fucking Jack Bros or whatever. I can play all those games. You could do that in your life. But the point we get to today, there is no way possible to ever play every game. And on top of that, even if you tried and you popped in each game, you couldn't, because like this game you played for 30 hours. There's not enough time. You will literally be dead. So I was like, well, what am I doing here? I will never complete that goal. So my goal cannot be to play all the games. It can just be to try as many games as I can and try to find some worth out of the games that I'm playing. And some of them fucking suck, and some of them are worth playing. But lately I've been finding some games that I didn't know about that have been worth my time. And that's nice, because I've spent a lot of time playing shit that's not worth anyone's time.
Yeah. I mean, I hate that when I buy every game I play. I could probably get codes for most games. I could get games for free, but I spend a lot of time, I compensating developers for the time.
Right, yeah.
Because a lot of people making games, it's like 5 dudes in a room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they deserve the $15, like,
yeah,
because they spent all that time. And a lot of times I pick up a game and there's just like one thing
that's wrong
that makes it like not playable.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot too.
Yeah, like, and whenever I do that, I'm like, man, I wish I could talk to these people.
Yeah,
just be like, it's one thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to be that guy too, where it's like you could just be in the room or play the game before it came out. Like, I'd love to be a game like a game tester like that, and just play the game once or twice and be like, hey, this is a really good idea. You had a good game here, but you got 3 or 4 problems here. But what's bad about that is sometimes with these games, the problem is in the core concept.
Yes.
And when it's like that, there's nothing you can do. So I wouldn't want to do that, because you're like, hey, you have a good, a lot of good things here. Like, maybe the core concept is bad, but there's a lot of things around it that are cool. Mm-hmm. So I would hate to go to somebody who's been working on a game for like 3 years and be like, hey, this is cool, but you got to start over from the beginning.
A lot of time is spent in game dev thinking about, like, is your concept good enough to make it a game? I watched like a TED Talk type series about it, and what the guy said in that, he's like, if you have to constantly be adding things on to your concept to make more gameplay, your concept isn't big enough. You should be able to take the root of what the game is and make all the levels.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's smart.
And then if you can make all the levels with the rules that you established, then that's a good concept. Like, you know, we go back to like our Marios and our Contras, like we were saying. Like Contra is you jump, you shoot, don't get hit. And all the levels.
But it's like when you have your game over here, and then you're like, we better add a bunch of mini games and like all these other fucking things here and there, and side quests and all this. It's like, well, what about like the main thing? Right.
Yeah, and that's like the criticism I have with a lot of like expensive, big, modern games. They just bolt stuff on to justify it. At that point, it's like Kaboom didn't have that problem. Kaboom didn't have that problem. You know, what's going on with your game? Yeah.
Well, that's all I got for this episode. We will be back next time with more games.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Click the fucking bell.